Hello, everybody. Welcome to episode number 241 of the SoxProspects.com podcast. We are the web's number one source for information on the Boston Red Sox from top to bottom, from Fort Myers to Worcester, across the Pike to Fenway, and all stops in between. Thank you for listening. My name is Chris Hatfield. I am the executive editor of Sox Prospects, and I am joined, as always, by our director of scouting, who comes running when the emergency podcast horn sounds, Ian Kundle. Ian, tell the folks why we're here.
Because we're back.
We're back, baby. The Major League
If it
Baseball...
wasn't for copyright, just make a joke. If it wasn't for copyright infringement, we could put like the Arnold Schwarzenegger Terminator like line right there.
A
Isn't
reference.
That one?
A reference.
I think I've not seen the movie. I've just seen the meme. I've actually seen the movie, but I thought that was good.
All right. So our $500 stretch goal is Ian watches Terminator 2 and does a scouting report of maybe, I don't know about Arnold, maybe T1000. I'll have you do his running form.
Isn't that the calculator you used in high school?
Don't mess with the TI-93, man. That thing was money.
No, it was like 84, wasn't it? I thought it was 84.
There were a bunch of them. I don't know. Drug Wars was the best.
I was just trying to Space Invaders. That was the one.
Drug Wars was the one I had. Anyway, all right, we're digressing. There is a CBA, or at least in principle, it's been ratified. The owners and players union have reached an agreement finally. And and what do you know? We're getting on 162 games, Ian.
Shocker.
Who would have thought it?
I will say though, like from last night, things were perilous. I'll just say that. Like there was a lot of concern that if things didn't get figured out today, it was going to be a long time, because the added complexion of if they had to go for back pay and service time, that was probably going to be a bigger issue than anything they still hadn't figured out.
Yeah, and the owners knew that too, I think. That's
which is why I think that this is when the deadline kind of like, yeah, exactly. Like the motivation of if we don't get a deal today, we're going to have to, that's going to be literally the biggest arguing point. And
you'd have to bet.
That was,
like you would not be able to get games in. And now they can get games in. I mean, to me, the interesting question is going to be when guys show up. I mean, I guess they're reporting Sunday is the mandatory reporting date.
The 7th or the 13th, I think. Yeah, right? Isn't that Sunday?
Today's Thursday. The 10th, but it's record. They're supposed to show up on Sunday unless you've got like a visa issue.
Well, and this is the thing that I don't know. I was just going to the Red Sox page. It looks like I don't think they're going to have this issue, but like the Phillies have already come out and said that Ranger Suarez isn't going to be ready to start the season because he still doesn't have a visa.
Right.
And he was one of their top starting pitchers. And like, that's something, you have to consider with a lot of these guys. And it's why like someone like Brian Bayo, for example, is going to be further behind than like Jake Groom, because Bayo is still in the Dominican. He's been pitching there. And most likely, like, unless his visa situation is already sorted, it could take a few days for him to get in, whereas Jake Groom can just drive over from Florida Gulf Coast and start working out at the facility. Yeah. So it's going to be interesting to see kind of like when people actually report and who gets caught in visa limbo and such, because there's definitely going to be a lot of that around baseball. And I don't envy the jobs of the traveling secretaries of these MLB teams right now.
Gosh,
can you think about the logistics of having to organize like 30 or I guess however 40 guys, their families, lodging, flights, like this everything is getting set up?
I feel like this is Raquel Ferreira's time to shine right now.
Yeah.
Like this is when having that logistics, like just the fixer stud in your front office is going to pay off.
Because, but it's not just that. You're going to need people like with a line to like the State Department to figure out visas. Like it's going to be a whole ordeal. And I would guess we're going to hear about more players being caught in visa limbo than we have in past years. Because usually, if you think about it, it gets figured out before we know.
Few.
So
yeah,
well, there's usually a few, but I'm saying most of the time it gets figured. They started, beginning of February, so they figure it out before the thing gets started. But now it's like, yeah.
Well, before we get much further, let me just say, if you want to support the show, you can support us a couple of ways. First, rate and review us on your favorite podcast listening app, device, program, whatever you call it. Give us a shout out on there. We would appreciate it. And of course, you can support us on patreon.com/SoxProspects. Pledge a certain amount per episode, get some neat perks that, hey, we're going to have games to go to soon and things like that. We're going to have the Patreon game updates, ladies and gentlemen. I think we can say this, Ian, from Fort Myers. We will be going down there at the end of the month. We were planning this even if things didn't get fixed today on the Major League side because the backfields were still alive and well. But we are going to be down there at the end of the month. I'm going to be there. I probably should have had a calendar up. When am I there, Ian? It's a Friday.
25th to the 28th.
25th through the 28th. You're going to get in a couple days earlier, the 23rd to the 28th, so the Wednesday. So keep an eye out on Twitter. Keep an ear out on patreon.com/Sox Prospects. We'll record an episode maybe from down there. We're going to have a little bit of downtime, maybe Sunday night or something, because Sunday's going to be an off day. We'll record a podcast by the pool at the hotel.
The audio might not be as good, but we'll try to record one.
Yeah, no, we'll.
I'm not bringing the mic was my main reason for saying that.
I've packed my mic before, actually. I don't know if you remember that.
I do remember that.
It was not worth it.
No.
The podcast sounded like trash. Kind of like last week's episode, by the way. I apologize, everybody. This one hopefully sounds better.
Oops.
We could stop and test now, but I like to live dangerously.
It was still the off season for Chris. You got to remember.
It was. It's true. Well, we've got two things to talk about, so let's not wait any longer. It's the CBA and what are the Red Sox going to do now that the offseason has officially opened back up.
We can actually do our offseason preview, which we didn't do before the lockout because we figured the lockout was coming. So
yeah, I mean,
we've been saving our
and then they did a bunch of stuff right before the deadline.
Yeah, of course, because they don't want us to have good content.
Yeah,
no, I'm just kidding.
So as far as the terms of the new CBA, I have yet to see a single article that includes everything.
Yeah, I don't think the CBA. I honestly wonder if they have the ideas kind of agreed, but it's not on paper yet. Do you know what I mean? Like they have
that's definitely it. They have the general conceptual framework. And
it just hasn't been written out in legalese yet.
That's where people like me come in.
I think is legalese a word, or did I make that up?
It is absolutely a word.
Okay, good. I thought I used it correctly.
I use it and what it describes all the time.
Yeah, I thought that was the right way to use it. So okay, good.
So anyway, yeah, I mean, just looking at, I guess let's start with the core economic issues because that's sort of the meat and potatoes here and what was really getting hashed out. The minimum major league salary is going to rise from $570,500. So it's basically $570K up to $700,000 this season, and it'll escalate up to $780K by the end of the deal. So 5 years from now. Well,
and I think on that's actually a really sneakily a lot of money funneling to the players. Fangraphs, who was
like an average of 2 point.
John Becker at Fangraphs did the math, and it's adding $64 million to payrolls.
Yeah,
with the Red Sox are actually one of the lowest teams. They're at 1.683 million, and the highest would be Texas at 3.5 million. So that's that's a lot of money flowing to the players, which is good. I mean, deserved. The minimum salary should have been higher, but that's definitely a big
positive
one right there.
The pre-arb bonus pool, which we described in a prior episode, is going to be $50 million. It looks like it's going to be flat.
Yeah. And I mean, that didn't exist before. So that's
right.
Good.
So that's $50 million a year going to pre-arb players. That's a good thing.
It's interesting though. We don't know what percentage, because wasn't it like only a certain percentage are eligible, and that talk has just kind of gone away. Like I remember at first. What? Go ahead.
What do you mean percentage? I mean, there's a number of players who it'll go to based on how they perform.
I thought for some reason there was something like they wanted like 100% of these players to be eligible for it. Then it bumped, or am I thinking about something else?
You were thinking about the Super 2 increase.
Oh, that they dropped, right?
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. Yeah, you're right.
So that didn't wind up happening. Super 2 stayed where it was. The bonus pool, I mean, I saw at one point it was going to be 30 players. I saw at another point it was going to be 100 players. I'm sure that it's somewhere between, or maybe even the 30. But that's more money for pre-arb players. Again, I mean, to me, one of the real problems with Major League Baseball's pay structure is that you come into the game and you could be the best player in baseball and you are one of the worst paid players. And that was always kind of
like Juan Soto. Juan Soto, yeah. I mean, he's in what? He's in his 5th year, right? This is his second to last ARB year, I think. And he's made like I saw it. It's like something like $3 million in his career or something.
Yeah, that's insane to me. I mean, that doesn't make sense because if he'd hit arbitration already, there's no way he's hit
no. Sorry, I'm in his first 3 years, maybe.
Oh yeah,
it's something because like with all the
because in the first 3 years he wouldn't have even made $3 million. He would have made
no. But remember they can give them like the bonus.
Yeah, but they wouldn't have given him more that much.
Let's see. Oh no, it is because this is his first ARB year. No, it is. That is right. He's made less than $3 million. Yeah, this is
less than makes sense.
Less than $3 million. Yeah,
give him $1 million, $1.2 million last year or something. Yeah, I could see that.
Yeah.
So anyway, I mean, that's a problem, and that these are things that help to fix that. A draft lottery is here. The top 6 picks will be subject to a lottery as an effort to disincentivize tanking. We don't know whether it's going to be weighted like the NBA's is or what. So we'll have
we don't
more
have any of the
details
details with that.
coming on that. But the bottom six teams will be, or the bottom six picks will be a lottery, probably with all of the non-playoff teams.
We also know though there's things like if you're a revenue sharing team, you can only pick in the bottom 10 the first for 2 years in a row, and then the third year the highest you can pick is 10, I think. And then if you're not a revenue sharing team, it's like you can only pick once 1 year in there. And then I'm pretty sure they did do that. Not positive, but I remember seeing the tweets about that today.
I would. Okay. Yeah. Well, I'm just going to be bouncing between sources on this. So
we'll go more detailed next time. Maybe.
Well, let's just go through them here so that we know we're saying things that actually got in.
Fair. I'll see if I can find that. Thing I was just
luxury tax threshold, which was $210 million in 2021, is going to be $230 million this season, and by the end of the CBA in 2026 is going to be $244 million. A fourth threshold was added that's $60 million above the initial threshold that has higher penalties, and apparently it's being called the Steve Cohen tax. And I said this on Twitter. I'm pretty sure that that's just there because
I think they said that it was
25 or so of the other owners are just terrified of Steve Cohen.
I think it's kind of funny that the Mets, all the Mets players, because I think on the executive council they have at least two, and then the Mets as a team
and Scherzer, right?
And then as the team, though, they were 3 of the no votes for the CBA, which hard to say if that was like a Scott Boras driven thing, because I think they're both Boras guys. I know Scherzer is for sure, or if that was more that Cohen could pay us more, except if we agree to this, because of the new CBA, is not high enough, I think is the biggest complaint some of the executive committee had. Or sorry, the CBT is not high enough. They're limiting how much. I don't know. It was just interesting that the Mets all voted against it.
To me, I don't see the CBT affects 5 teams. The CBT is not the thing that needed to get fixed. The thing that needed to get fixed was pay for pre-ARB and ARB players. In the sense of getting more guys to ARB sooner.
Yeah.
To me, the CBT, the CBT did need to go up, and it's good that they bumped it like this, but go ahead.
I think inherently this is what makes the PA's job so difficult is they have to fight for the rights of both the guys making, the minimum and the guys making, $30 million a year. And it's hard to, if you're going to do something that benefits one set of those players, it's probably going to hurt the other one or vice versa. And then it's also the middle class, like the guys, making $5-10 million a year. Where does that leave them? So that's why it's it was a very difficult negotiating position. Obviously the owners knew that. And so that's why they had to move off some ideas, but they definitely did get some big gains, especially with the guys at the bottom, which I think is the most important group, getting those minimum salaries up and getting that ARB bonus pool and all those anti service time manipulation things that you'll talk about shortly.
Yeah. So let's just keep moving here with the various terms. 12-team postseason is here. 6 teams in each league. 3 and 6 will play in the wild card round. 2, 4 and 5 will play in the wild card round. The top seed will play the winner of 4 and 5. The 2 seed will play the winner of 3 and 6. They're not going to do the you pick who you play thing. The tiebreaker game is gone. There's no more play-in game when teams are tied. They're just going to go to NFL style tiebreakers, things like run differential and whatnot. So the interesting things I saw on Twitter about that, though, is that baseball is not a game that's designed for that kind of tiebreaker. If it's 12-0 in the 8th and you bunt, someone's getting a fastball to the back,
or vice versa. If you pitch a position player, you could end up giving up 10 more runs.
Right. So you don't want to have one of those games.
No. Wait, which run differential?
That's going to be one of them. Yeah.
That's so stupid. Yeah. That's
but the thing is, you have to
that's going to change strategy. It has to change strategy.
Yeah, it yes, but I think it's not it's going to be the first tiebreaker. Obviously the first tiebreaker is going to be head to head. I could see it being head to head, win-loss and common opponents, or if they're in the same division, win-loss within division or something. I wonder, sure run differential isn't going to be the first one, but it's got to be on there.
Yeah,
because you've got to have enough that it
there's no possible way. There's I do wonder though. if the common opponents thing is one of the reasons why one of the other changes is that the schedule is getting more balanced in the future, and which I think is very good for the Red Sox.
Yeah, it's good for the Red Sox, and I like it. I mean, I
think for the fans, it's good too, though, because like it was stupid that in certain years, like for example, the Red Sox, I don't know, I haven't looked at this year's schedule honestly, but there have been years where like they wouldn't play San Diego at home, so like Red Sox fans wouldn't get to see Fernando Tatis, or
they didn't play every National League team ever.
That's my point, is though that like they were not, you want to market your stars in every market or in like every location, and you want to expose them to as many of your fans as possible. So it makes sense to have every team play every team so that everyone is seeing all the other players in the league.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely right. And the thing is, ever since they went to interleague, like, why not? Like, you've already got interleague, you've got 30 teams, 15 in each league. So there's an interleague series at all times. Like, just everyone plays everyone. But you're right. I think you're right. That benefits the AL East teams a lot because they're not going to beat up on each other. And it's going to hurt like the Central teams, like, because they're like the one good team in the Central isn't going to get to just AL Central isn't going to get to just beat up.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah. That's such an interesting one, because that was never even rumored at all, and that just came out of nowhere.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff like that that's kind of come out of nowhere.
Is probably why this took so long.
Yeah. The new rules, things like pitch clock, bigger bases, banning shifts, those will not come until 2023.
We'll mark that down for our second off-season episode. We'll discuss those.
They are coming, though. MLB can apparently implement those changes with a 45-day notice, which is basically like the off-season before. Is what that effectively means. They're not going to like change the rules mid-season or anything crazy.
Well, yeah, because that's the big change was right now it would require one, like if they did something this off season, it wouldn't go in effect until a year from now. So now it's basically, as you said, they could change it within the single off season.
Right. So that, which I mean is fair. Like, they're testing these things in the minors. They're not going to come out of nowhere. They've got to get approved by the competition committee, but like.
Yeah, and like I mean, obviously, I'm sure we have takes on the shift thing, which we'll get into eventually. But like things like bigger bases to me is a no brainer. Like same thing with the pitch clock. There are certain things that I don't think are like that should be that controversial. I do think the shift thing is controversial, though. That is,
bigger bases on our forum actually got a lot of pushback.
Why? You're not going to notice it.
Get off my lawn. Like, that's what I said. It's like, because the thing is, Baseball America, after these rules were tested in the minor leagues this past offseason, had this, like, I had an article going through how they all went. And I think larger bases increased steals, like steal percentage success rate was up to like 76% instead of like 68 to 72.
It's a slightly shorter distance. Good.
Yeah,
I mean, more steals is fun, though. That's good. I don't
that's what I'm saying with that. That's what I'm saying. Like, I mean, I think they were just like, it's comical. Like,
to me, I look at it that I think the biggest thing is it's a player safety issue. And we've seen the collisions at first base. Like, if we cut those out, that's a big deal to me. Like, I remember I didn't see really any of those in the minors this year versus in the majors. We saw it several times.
Yeah.
Like, oh, and by the way, circling.
Those were only tested in like AAA for half the year, but
yeah. No, I know. I'm just saying that like that when in the AAA games that I went to, I didn't see anything like that. Yeah. But I found MLB put out a 2022 season FAQ.
Oh, did they? Okay.
Yeah, and all 18 non-postseason clubs will be eligible for the lottery, though clubs that receive revenue sharing are ineligible to receive lottery selections in 3 consecutive years, and non-payees cannot receive lottery selections in consecutive years. So that's what I said.
Okay. All right. Can you put the link in the chat?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, we're just going through this at the same time you all are. The other thing, like the Players Association put out, like it's basically like a term, not even a term sheet.
It's basically showing what they gained.
Yeah, significant increases to minimum salaries. We got that. We got the new bonus pool. There's a Fangraphs one too. Cool.
Yeah.
What else is it? Okay, so let's stick with the MLB one for now to exhaust that before we go to all these other Twitter accounts.
International draft is tabled until July. They have basically until July 25th to agree to it.
And so if they agree to it, then the qualifying offer goes away.
Yes. Correct.
And if they don't agree to it, then they just, because at one point there was like the owners can opt out of the CBA.
Yeah, which was never, the players were never, that's a terrible idea. This one is interesting though, because like I was just asked someone and they didn't know the answer. Is the qualifying offer still a thing right now? Like,
yes,
I would assume so. So like
this
if the Red Sox signed,
completed,
so if the Red Sox signed Carlos Correa, for example, they would lose a draft pick, or right now they're gaining one for Eduardo Rodriguez. But so it seems like that's sticking around, I guess, for now.
Yes, it is. Another universal DH is here,
which is obvious. Expanded playoffs is only 12 teams, thankfully, which is good. I'm glad they didn't go to 14.
No more extra innings, not ghost runner, zombie runner on second, and no 7-inning doubleheaders. Those are gone, which I'm fine with. I didn't get like, I don't know. In the MLB, I feel like
the playoff structure is interesting. I think that, as you said, there's no longer playing games, and there's no longer reseeding either. So like the number 1 seed plays the winner of 4 or 5, like the number 2 seed. Yeah.
Yep. Free agency's open. Trades and everything can happen. Oh God, arbitration needs to happen. I didn't even think about that.
Especially because it's going to be a situation where they have to exchange the numbers by I think the 25th of March, which means the hearings are not going to be held until in season. So you're going to have like teams arguing against their players during the regular season.
That's suboptimal.
If there was ever a season not to go to arbitration, if you're a team, this is it. Because the last thing you want to be doing is telling the player he's not good during the season.
Just come to an agreement, man.
Yeah.
Rule 5 draft is banged. Sorry for your loss, JJ Cooper.
For the Red Sox, I will say that's pretty good, I think, because while obviously there's a chance they could find the next like Garrett Whitlock or something like that, the odds of that, those guys don't come around very often. And I feel pretty confident in saying there was a good chance they'd lose at least one and if not multiple players. So I think that for them, it ends up being a net positive that they don't have to worry about, potentially losing someone like Thad Ward or Durbin Feldman, Zach Kelly, guys like that.
Yep, for sure. I'm with you. Let's see. We talked about salaries and the CBT, the draft lottery. Players can only be optioned 5 times in a season. It affects like 2 players a season. Like it didn't affect anyone.
Actually more than I thought. No, it's actually more than that. Yeah. I was like meandering and like, no, Eduardo Olivares was optioned 9 times last year. So like there are a few guys like Phillips Valdez, I think was optioned like 4 times, but
here's the Sox, thing too, is last year guys would get optioned to like the taxi squad because that happened with Connor Wong a bunch. He'd get optioned and he was back the next day because he never left.
Yeah. So I'm guessing will there be a taxi squad this year? I guess we don't know yet. I'm guessing not.
I would guess no. I mean, I think COVID's in a place where they're not going to have special COVID rules anymore. I mean, they said they're letting the press back in the locker room across the game.
So I think that rule, I do think that's a good rule for the players, but I'm interested to see if it does have an impact on like how teams use relievers from the minors or things like that. Because they're the only types of players that would potentially run into that are like backup catchers, relievers, and like maybe like a utility infielder. Like the chances of you optioning someone who's, a notable prospect 5 times in a year is low.
Right. It's the up and down kind of. I mean, again, it's another thing that's put in to help like Johnny 45, like Johnny Roll 45, right? Like that's who that helps. The kind of fringe player on the roster. International draft, like you said, has been tabled. Let's see what else. Travis Shawchuk, what do you got for me? 12-team playoff format.
Oh, the service time manipulation ones.
Yeah. So I need to see what so the pre-arb bonus. The pre-arb bonus pool will be divided among 100 players, roughly the top 20% of pre-arb performers each year per Travis.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. It's not everyone.
Well, yeah, we said it wasn't everyone. Yeah. It was at one time it was 30, at one time it was 100.
Yeah.
Pre-arb and Cy Young winners will get a $2.5 million bonus. A pre-arb MVP and Cy Young winners who are pre-arb will get $2.5 million. Second place gets 1.75, and then it goes down. The rookie of the year gets a bonus. The runner-up for rookie of the year gets $500K. There are also bonuses for all MLB first and second team, and then the rest of the pool is going to be spread among the top 100 pre-arb players based upon some sort of WAR metric TBD. That'll be fun.
Yeah. That's
yeah. Okay, so for arbitration, apparently 2020 stats are going to be extrapolated to an 162 game equivalent,
which is smart. That's the way it should be done
for players who are eligible for the first time.
Yeah.
Following the 2022 season. Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know why they weren't doing that already.
Yeah, and then the service time thing is that the top 2 rookie of the year vote getters in each league will now receive a full year of service time if they're not brought up at the beginning of the season. I think that's a really good rule.
Yep.
Also, a team that adds a prospect to its opening day roster who will be eligible to receive draft picks if that player finishes in the top 3 of rookie of the year voting or top 5 in MVP or Cy Young. So, but that only applies if they're on the roster the entire season. So I do think that makes it more likely, though, that we'll see like those super elite prospects at the beginning of the year.
Like the Wander Francos of the world. Like Bobby, exactly. Is Bobby Witt Jr. going to break
the two I think with this year, Bobby Witt and Adley Rutschman.
You think Rutschman? Yeah, I guess so.
But then again, it comes down to how much do teams value those picks? You know, is the pick worth a year of service time to someone like Adley Rutschman? Like, that's the question.
Like that, and we talked about that. You know,
it says draft picks though, so I think it could be multiple. So maybe
I think it goes into the future too. Like if it's within like the first 3 years or something, or at least that's what it was at one point.
Yeah. So it's going to be the thing is that as we talked about, like it's probably not all the details. I feel like more is going to keep coming out each day, and eventually until we see like the hard CBT written, you know, it's going to, or CBA, not CBT. It's going to be kind of just like bits and pieces, and we're kind of like piecing it together ourselves.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. All right, let's see. Jason Stark, do you have anything that you haven't talked about yet? Okay, so there's the pre-arb pools. A player can only receive 1 bonus from those pre-arb pools, so you can't get like the rookie of the year and the MVP bonus. You can only get the MVP bonus. Tax thresholds, no more game 163, no reseeding. As part of the CBA, there's going to be a minor adjustment in revenue sharing. Some of the luxury tax proceeds will go to reward teams that grow local revenues, whatever that means. The draft is still 20 rounds. We knew that. All right, that's enough from him.
Draft bonus pools went up too.
Draft bonus pools went up. We don't know how much yet.
I think the Players Association said it was like 16 million or something.
Oh, well, total, yeah.
Which is like, you know, $500K per team or so. But I don't quote me on that number. I don't have that sheet in front of me.
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking at like the top of the top 100 prospects list just to see who might come up. I mean, like, could Torkelson start the year in Detroit?
Maybe. I mean, Riley Green also. You could throw that in there. I mean, it's going to be interesting. I think we'll know in the next couple of weeks, like which guys that's
CJ Abrams.
No, he missed all. He missed all last year with like injury. Right. It's not going to be him. It's like, I think like Torque, Riley Green, Bobby Witt, Adley Rutschman. Those are like the big ones.
Yeah, I can't see anyone else here. Like, I mean, for those listening, like Casas, no, he's not ready yet.
I would say probably not. Yeah,
like no chance. There's no chance. Like,
yeah,
because the chances he comes up and stays up the whole year so that you could get the pick, like.
Well, I mean, the only way you would do it is if you've decided that he's our first baseman now, we're turning it over to him now, and I just don't see them going down that route. No. I think that they're comfortable with Bobby Dahlbeck in some sort of role there, and I still think they're going to go out and get someone who's a left-handed hitting option at first base.
Yeah. Might that be the transition? Is there anything else on the CBA we need to talk about?
No, I think let's get to the stuff people really want to hear about. Let's talk about the Red Sox and specifically that, like, what they're looking to do, because as I think John Morosi tweeted, I guess it's a frenzy right now, but nothing's happening, which I actually give them credit. That's good, because we talked about it. These teams took it very seriously. It seems like no one wanted to risk getting caught, tampering or anything. And so, yeah.
Cespedes Family Barbecue. They just tweeted John Coppolella would have had Correa signed yesterday.
That's a very good inside baseball joke.
That is great.
Unfortunately, John Coppolella is banned for life from baseball.
Yes,
so
yes, yeah, he is, and that is why.
So Chris, do you want to run down your tweet? Because I think your what you mentioned yesterday when we were discussing it kind of like summed up where I think I'm pretty close in alignment with where you are of what the Red Sox needs are. By if we want to reset.
One really quick transactions note, happy trails to Dominic D'Alessandro, who retired.
Oh, yeah, he retired. Yep. thankfully retired. Oh no, I already did his report. Never mind. I was gonna say yeah. But I think that
find my tweet. Where the heck
so just resetting kind of where the Red Sox are at right now. The Red Sox have 39 players on their 40-man roster.
Yep.
James Paxton, I would assume they will place on the 60-day DL as soon as they can. So that's
the interesting thing with the lockout, because they're going to get to do that kind of thing.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Yeah, which is interesting. So I would assume he'll go on it pretty soon. So I would say for now we can operate with them at 38 people on their 40-man roster.
Yeah,
someone asked me.
I think they need at least 5 guys for the major league.
And this is what I was going to get to. But someone asked me if Brian Mata they could put on the 60. It's a tough one.
Yes, they could.
They
I
could
don't think
put.
They will.
I don't either because of it starts his clock and it counts as an option year, right?
But if he wins the Rookie of the Year, they'd get a draft. No, I'm kidding. He wouldn't. He wouldn't have been on the active roster. No, the thing with Mata, it's the same reason they didn't do it last year. It's different when it's Edward Bizzardo, who's a relief pitcher, and they were talking 2 months.
And it's also if Bizzardo needs all 3 of his options, he's probably not with the org anymore. Let's be honest.
Right. Mata, on the other hand, didn't pitch last year, isn't going to pitch for a significant amount of this year.
I would say at least till we talked about it last episode, August, probably July.
July or August. And even then he's going to be rehabbing. I guess you could have him rehabbing on the 60-day. Or no, I guess what you do is when he's on the 60-day, the second he starts pitching again, you activate him and option him. But now you're both burning. He's going to burn an option this year.
Yeah.
That goes without saying. Yes, he burned one last year.
No, he does because he's on the 40-man.
No, I'm saying last year. I was saying if he burned one last year, but he definitely did. He burned an option last year. He's going to burn an option this year. It's suboptimal. But he was ready for AAA in 2020.
Correct.
If you option him next year too, if he needs it, and that's fine. And if he's not ready to go in 2024, it's a problem.
Yeah.
Right. So I would rather burn the options and deal with the 40-man roster spot. I mean, look, I always say I don't like to. I'm not. To me, when you hit the 40-man is when I'm okay talking about how safe your roster spot is. Right. That's my personal threshold. Hudson Potts is DFAable. Phillips Valdez is DFAable.
Jason
Rosario is DFAable. I think that's 3 guys right there. They would have no problem designating for assignment.
I think Aruz is another one. If they
Aruz is definitely on that list too. I don't think Austin Davis is there.
I don't think so either, just because he's a lefty and his advanced stuff is good.
I think it's those 4 guys.
I would have thought maybe Sawamura, but it seems like they love him in the clubhouse, and he's a guaranteed contract this year, so I don't think he's on that list.
I'm inclined to agree, and honestly, Ian, I think at some point if they're adding more, so that's 5 40-man roster spots, right?
Well, it's 5 without including Mata. Mata would be 6 if they needed it.
Well, no, so it's
they have one open. They have Paxton 2, 3 would be Rosario,
Aruz, so it's 6.
And Valdez is 6. Yeah, so it could be 7 with Mata if they needed to.
Right, but I don't think they're going to do that with Mata.
I don't either.
And if they're at the point they're adding more than 6 guys, people have been traded.
Yes, I would agree with that.
They don't have room for 6 guys.
That would be we did the huge deal with Oakland for Chris Bassett, Sean Murphy, and Lou Trevino. And in that deal, we traded
Dahlbeck
Tanner Houck.
And Duran.
Yeah, we traded Tanner Houck, Bobby Dahlbeck, and Jaron Duran or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah. So, at that point, you've got guys going out. I set forth on Twitter, the tweet you were talking about the other day, kind of my basic priority list. So this is, and I made the caveat on Twitter of if they don't blow it, if they don't go with the huge splash and go get Carlos Correa, right? If they go get Correa, then obviously the priorities change completely because now you're probably trading guys are moving.
That I think that we should start with there because I think it's interesting. Alex Spear put up an article just now or tonight about the Red Sox kind of resetting things and what their plans could be in free agency. And he didn't downplay the potential of pursuing Correa, which I just think is interesting.
I think they go talk to him. You have to. Why wouldn't
I think you have to
too.
Sox? I think you have to. Yeah.
I think if you're the Red Sox, you need to have a willingness to go over the CBT.
100%.
Because
they're
completely
reset,
right? Of contracts
right?
Coming off next year. You've got JD Martinez coming off. Nate Eovaldi comes off. I think most of their.
It's the entire team next season coming off. I actually have a list of it. I was looking at it earlier.
Yeah.
It's
I got it right here too.
Find it.
Vasquez is a free agent. JD Martinez is a free agent. Nathan Eovaldi is a free agent.
Xander and Sale have opt-outs.
Yeah, Sale won't use his. Xander will use his.
I mean, I don't know if we can rule out Sale not using his. Can we?
I don't think he gets more than what's he going to get. Sale.
I don't know.
Sale's going to get $27.5 million next year. Like he's not going to get 26. It's 3 years, 27.5 club option for 20. That
probably not. Gets, but I guess
I don't think he's getting 50. He's not getting 70 over 3.
Probably not. But yeah, Bogey, JDM, Eovaldi, Vasquez, Kike Hernandez, Mike Walker, Rich Hill, like potentially Paxton too.
Paxton potentially, yeah.
Like so they have a ton
Bradley
of money
potentially. Bradley's a mutual option, so he's probably gone.
Yeah,
he's definitely gone because remember that option is there to game the CBT.
Yeah, he's definitely gone. So there's a ton of because he still gets his money either way there.
Yep.
There's a ton of money coming off the cap, and yeah, if you're going to go over it, especially like I don't think they would approach like the 260 number, but if they would go, they could go to like 240.
It's 30, 50, 70, 90.
Okay, sorry. But I could see them going to like 250 this year. Because right now they're at 206.
I mean, look, I don't think they're going to go, balls out right now.
No.
But I could see them like spending up to or slightly over it. And then if they need help at the deadline, not being afraid to push their chips in.
Because you look at, and we can talk about like the positions you said, and I think we agree. Their biggest need to me is an outfielder. I think they need a starting level caliber outfielder.
Yep.
Would you agree?
No question. And that's why I listed it first. And I think Seiya Suzuki is the obvious target there.
I think he makes too much sense.
Yeah.
And like there was a lot of smoke early in the offseason. Then the lockout happened and we haven't really heard anything. But he's obviously committed to coming stateside. He's made him and his agent have made that very clear, which I guess could have been a question. We've seen like
definitely was a question.
Kwang Hyun Kim just jumped over to the KBO for like a KBO record salary. Good for him, by the way.
Yeah.
Came here 2 years, had like a really good ERA, and then goes back and is making like 12 million a year or something.
Yep.
But Suzuki makes, I think, the most sense. Like looking at the other options there, like Nick Castellanos, nice bat. I don't think he can play right field full time in Fenway.
Well, I think if you get Nick Castellanos, you're putting him in left and Verdugo in right, which also not great.
Which also is not ideal because like Verdugo's defensive metrics fell off the table last year, which is really strange. I don't know what happened there.
Yep.
But yeah, like someone like there are options for a right-handed power hitting outfielder. And I just think that for what he could do, Suzuki it presents the most intrigue.
I mean, Schwarber probably makes them a little too left-handed, but he also like,
Schwarber,
I could see running it back.
Yeah. I mean, especially because we talked about at the end of the season, you saw the impact him and his kind of like approach to hitting had on the rest of the team.
Yep.
Because he brought an entirely, I mean, they have a lot of free swingers, let's be honest. Like they have a lot of aggressive guys. Schwarber, complete opposite of that. And it seemed to really rub off on a lot of those guys at the end of the year.
We need to double back. We almost forgot the whole Jim Callis thing.
Oh, yeah.
One of the CBA things that's apparently coming back, and our friend of the podcast, Jim Callis, alluded to it on Twitter. Apparently the draft and follow is back, which I interpret as they're pushing back the signing deadline for the draft.
That's what I thought it was too.
That's got to be what it is.
That's the only thing that makes sense. Because you remember it was rushed this year. It was like 3 weeks after the draft or whatever. Now I would guess it's probably going to be like, when's the draft going to be? June. So it would probably maybe be like,
it's July now. Remember?
It's July. Break. So maybe it would be like September 1st or something. Whenever
I could see it just saying the end of the season. And I could see teams taking advantage of that, honestly, because like, guys signed last year and like Luis Guerrero, I'm fairly certain never reported to Fort Myers. I'm pretty sure he signed his contract. He was the guy they signed out of the contract. Yeah. He was the one they signed out of the draft league.
Yeah. He looked good in the draft league. Yeah.
And I'm pretty sure they just said like, hey, like go rest. We're not going to pitch you. You've pitched a lot this year. Like, go home. We'll see you next
Well,
spring.
Especially too, because of the obviously the roster limits for minor leaguers. What is it? 180 people or something?
Exactly. And like, if you signed a guy and he didn't report, then he didn't count.
He didn't count. Exactly. So
now it's just like, just draft the guy and watch him keep playing. So yeah.
Oh, wow. Callis has some of the details of the.
Yeah, I just saw the same thing. So Jim Callis is tweeting right now.
What? It's all 18 have a chance?
Yeah. All 18. Yeah, we said.
I didn't. I thought it was only like the bottom like 10 or something.
No, it's all 18 teams have a chance at one of the top 7 picks. That's what you were saying. And then, but
Wow.
like you're limited in how often you can get them.
Yeah.
After the first round, it goes back to reverse order of win percentage. So it's not like if you win the lottery, you have the first pick in every round.
Reverse order of finish. So it's wild card, division series, champ series, not win percentage.
Well, the non-playoff teams, it's win percentage, but
no, in all 20 rounds, playoff clubs choose in reverse order of
read
finish.
The sentence before, Ian. That's what I'm talking about. Non-playoff teams.
Oh yeah.
Reverse
Okay.
order of win percentage.
Sorry.
Yeah, it's fine.
Yes.
In those group, we do like each other. In those groups, teams sorted by revenue sharing status and reverse order of win percentage. What?
Oh, it's not that. It's what I'm saying. He's basically saying.
No, I know that that's the playoff guys. I get that.
His tweet is wrong. I think what he's saying is that
fine. He's saying first you have after the first round, you don't worry about the lottery anymore. Right?
Oh, yes, correct. Yes.
And so you're saying the non-playoff teams are in win percentage order like usual.
Yes.
The playoff clubs choose in reverse order of finish. Wild card, division series, championship series, World Series loser,
which is how it used to be.
Exactly. Yeah. But then in those groups, they're sorted by revenue sharing status and
which is different.
Order of win percentage.
That's different. The revenue sharing. So it's basically like if the Red Sox finish and lose in the wild card game, they would be the last pick of those 4 wild card teams, even if they had even if they had the best, like the worst record of them, because they would be the least whatever. They don't get any revenue sharing, basically.
Yeah. All right. Diving back into the Red Sox. So, let's see here. Okay. First thing we agree they need is a corner outfielder. I think their next biggest priority is a true back end of the bullpen reliever. I don't mean they need to sign Kenley Jansen and give him the closer job. I don't know who the closer is going to be this year. Other than Jansen, I don't think there's anyone left out there that you would say this guy is definitely the closer over a Matt Barnes, right?
I mean, the only other one would be if they went out and traded for Kimbrel
or Hader. I mean, like, yeah,
but they're not going to trade. They're not going to trade.
But I'm just saying, like, the free agent market. I think you're looking at guys like a Ryan Tepera. I said Joe Kelly, which apparently drove people nuts. Archie Bradley, Andrew
Tepera makes a lot of sense. Chafin would make a lot of sense. I don't know that they need a lefty though, because now, I mean, we have it projected that Josh Taylor, Austin Davis, and Darwinzon Hernandez are all going to be on the team. So I would probably look for a righty. I think 3 lefties is enough.
Yep.
But I think that and I think the other route they could go is more of like a long reliever.
Yeah,
especially if they think Whitlock's going to be the closer there. And Colin McHugh would fit like perfectly. And
even
he
if
was
Whitlock's going to be stretched out too.
He would fit either way.
Stretched out is going to would be terrific.
Well, and I think that's going to be important too, because one of the other things we forgot about is that they're actually going to enforce the 13 pitchers 13 pitcher max this year.
Right. Yeah.
Which they obviously have delayed because of the COVID the last 2 years. So, the Red Sox are going to have to run a 4-man bench and an 8-man bullpen. And if you're running an 8-man bullpen, you need at least 2 long guys, in my opinion. You need probably a third guy who also can give you length. And so that's why like guys like Houck, Whitlock, and potentially someone like a McHugh type would be very important and very valuable in that role, as we kind of saw how McHugh could be used with the Rays last year and how good he could be in that role.
Absolutely. I think the next option, and I have this as a starting or platoon second baseman. And I mean that so you could easily go out and get, to give the example that's not there anymore, the, Marcus Semien type to start at second. They had that role empty, and then you just play Kike Hernandez in center field. Right.
Well, yeah. And that would be like the guys who would fit that is like you get Story to play shortstop and you move Xander to second. You get Correa to play shortstop, you move Xander to second. Or, frankly, if you got Story, you could move him to second, I guess, if it was only like a 1-year deal potentially. But like if he took like a short-term prove it deal, I guess he would be okay with that. Like Semien did it last year with Toronto.
Yep. I mean, you could even do that with I don't know if Jose Iglesias rises to that. I don't think he does. I think he's more of like the platoon type guy that I
think he makes sense though. I'm not sure even a platoon. I think he makes sense as like a bench infielder.
Well, right. And then that's like number 5 on my list that they need. The thing with this position, the reason I say you can do a platoon second baseman is right now the lineup is set up such that if they went into the season with this roster, I think what you've got is Kike Hernandez bouncing back and forth between center and second, and Jackie Bradley is in a platoon with Christian Arroyo. Which, are they even different handedness? I never checked this.
Yeah.
Okay.
Bradley's a lefty, Arroyo's a righty. Yeah.
Okay. So I think that's how that would play out. Right. Not the best situation. If you had another guy that was slightly better than the two of them that slots in at second, because the thing with Arroyo, I like him. You just cannot rely on him to stay healthy.
No,
he has literally never stayed healthy. It's just
like I'm looking at like the eligible free agents right now, or like the top guys, and there's not a lot for infield beyond like if you're not going for that elite tier. You know, you're looking at like Iglesias, Jonathan VR, like guys like
VR,
that.
I wouldn't hate.
No, but I'm not sure how much of an upgrade.
Hit in a while. Yeah.
He's a switch hitter. Like, yeah, I don't know. It's going to be interesting. Like guys like Charlie Culberson, you get down to that tier who, you know, crushes lefties, can't hit righties, but they already have Arroyo. So that's a weird fit. Like it's going to be interesting to see how they prioritize things with the infield. And I think what they do with this infield slot, because like we haven't talked about it yet, they also potentially could go out and get a first baseman. Like someone like if Rizzo would take a 1-year deal, like I'd be game for that.
Trade
for example,
Olsen.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean,
and then
if you're trading
next offseason.
If you're trading for Matt Olson, I would want to flip him if I got him. And if you're trading for Matt Olson, you're giving up like everything you have in your farm.
Trading for Matt Olson, you are probably giving up Casas.
Yeah, I mean
that's how that problem gets solved. It's the Adrian Gonzalez deal all over.
Yeah, but I think that you know it'll tell us what they think about their internal options going forward. You know, if they go out and sign, you know. I mean, I don't think it's going to happen, but like, if they go out and sign like Freddie Freeman, that's a pretty clear signal that they're going to do something with Casas weird. Like, or if, you know, they're going out and they're getting, you know, Schwarber even or Rizzo, like that's going to be that's an interesting move. Whereas if they go more the second base route and leave first base open, then it's pretty clear Casas is the guy in the future. So I think it's going to be interesting seeing what route they choose with their position players beyond outfield, because I think there are several ways you could go, whether it be the first base route, the second base route, both, you know, neither. Like they have internal options, but I'm just not sure they're good enough right now. So it's going to be interesting to see what they do with that.
Yeah. The next spot I had is the second reliever. I think they do need 2 relief pitchers. Some of the names. Go ahead.
If you can only have 13 though, do they need 2 relievers? Because if you think about it, they have the 5 starters. Then you have Whitlock 5, and Houck.
6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. They have.
I don't think they need 2 relievers. I think they only need 1.
Because they have 13. If so, your rotations: Eovaldi, Sale, Rich Hill, Nick Pivetta, Michael Wacha.
Correct.
Whitlock and Garrett, and Whitlock and Houck as long guys. That's 7.
That's 7. So you have 6 spots left.
Barnes, Brazier, Taylor, Davis, Darwinzon, Sawamura.
That's 6 right there.
I'm comfortable adding 1 more because A, are they all going to be healthy? B, are they all going to be effective?
Exactly.
I think you're right. I don't
know if they need 2.
RP needs to come off.
Yeah. So I don't know if they need 2. And that's where it gets interesting is like,
and if you've got guys like Bizzardo and Valdez on the 40 right now, like you've got guys who are non-roster invites to camp, like Zach Kelly, Michael Feliz.
Well, and I think the point is is who you're going to be adding in that potential spot going to be that much of an upgrade over someone like Bizzardo or Valdez that you just lose them? Probably not.
You're right. I think you're right. So I think it's only 1 guy.
Whereas I think
if you go and get McHugh, I think you still need a back end guy.
Yeah, but then who are you removing? Like,
yeah,
like Sawamura would be of that group the one, unless like because Barnes is locked up for big money and Brazier was, you know, your setup guy last year. You're not going to get rid of him, I don't think. So
yeah, I guess that's right. Then. Because, I mean, I guess what you do is you say with McHugh, you might be a back end of the bullpen guy. You might be long. And I think because look, you've got Whitlock, McHugh.
But the thing is, if you bring in McHugh, you just move Whitlock to closer. Like that's probably what they do. You know what I mean?
Or
you don't have a closer. But yeah, you don't have a closer.
Like almost like they did in the playoffs, but you've got like 3 Whitlocks and Whitlock, Houck, and McHugh.
Yeah. And if you need a 1-inning guy, you maybe throw Barnes in there. Like, and let him see if he's right. Like, so that's why I think they have options. And I think that Whitlock and Houck give them the flexibility with that bullpen spot to pursue several different types of arms, whether it be, you know, the true closer type, the true setup man, or like more of a long, like hybrid-y role like McHugh.
Right. Okay. Fair enough. And then they need a bench infielder. Right now, we've got the bench projected as Plawecki, Arroyo, Bradley. I guess if one of them's starting, you have a little more flexibility. I mean, there's no true backup first baseman on the roster, which is a little weird.
That's the one that's why I think they have to get a left-handed hitting guy who can play first base. I don't know if they'd be comfortable.
Like a Mitch Moreland type, even.
Like, do you know who would be perfect? But I don't know. Like, he's not going to be available. It'd be like G-Man Choi from the Rays. He'd be perfect for what they need. Just someone who just mashes righties
in the locker room. Yeah.
But I just think I don't know if they'd be comfortable going into the season with Dahlbeck projected to get 600 at bats this season. I mean, we saw how streaky he is. We saw how much he struggled against righties. Like, he has certain areas where he struggled, where I almost wonder if you expose him to more pitching, his kind of value and how much he contributes you're going to get diminishing returns the more he's out there. Mm-hmm. Whereas I think there's a sweet spot where Dahlbeck could, he gets like 400, 450 PAs a year and is a very useful player in kind of like, but I wonder if, as you approach that 600, 650, 700, those returns become a lot less. Yeah. That's kind of my concern with him. Like, I don't think he's, I don't see him as like not borderline, not a major leaguer like some people do. But I think that his role is still in flux unless he comes in and has made some substantial changes with his swing to cut down on the K rate.
Fair enough. Any other thoughts on the Red Sox, who they might add? I think we've kind of.
I think the one sleeper position for me is catcher. The fact that they were interested in Stallings before the lockout is interesting to me. And it says to me that, and it's kind of something that I've been kind of zeroing in on the last, like during the off season when I've been working on like our, scouting reports and talking to people around the game, is that the Red Sox don't really have a long-term catcher in the system right now who's going to be ready anytime soon. Like, their top catching prospect in my opinion, who has everyday potential, played in the DSL last year. Like, we talked about it, like Connor Wong and Ronaldo Hernandez have their warts and they could be maybe like backup catchers, but the odds of either of them developing into a starting catcher are pretty low. And beyond that, I don't think we have another catcher in the top 50 other than Ender Solera, who's in the DSL.
Oh, I think Cottom might have snuck in in the back, like in the
I don't think he's
50s.
in the top 50 though.
Oh God, you said 50. All right.
Yeah, it's a top 50.
Top 60. Yeah.
No, it's a top 50.
Cottom is 56.
Yeah.
But Steven Scott is 51, who's apparently going to be playing primarily catcher this year.
And then I guess like Hickey kind of, but Hickey,
Hickey's 29. Yeah.
But they don't. But none of those guys are like the true catching prospect, in my opinion. Like, Lira is the true two-way catching prospect in the system, and so that's why I think that if there is an opportunity to go out and get a guy who would be locked in for multiple years at catcher, I do think the Red Sox might pursue or, look to get that route. And I think the guy to me that makes the most sense would be Sean Murphy from Oakland. Like, he is ridiculously underrated, in my opinion. I mean, his defense is absurdly good. And I think that if he got out of Oakland, which he's a fly ball hitter, and he gets out of Oakland where fly balls go to die, and he came to Fenway, if you look at his overlays, he was like 87th percentile hard hit rate. Like, he hits the ball really hard in the air. And he lost so many home runs just by being in Oakland that if he was at Fenway would have been home runs. I think he could like push like 30 home runs in Fenway. So he would be someone, if they're going to go for a catcher and they're trying to make a splash, I would not be surprised at all if he's someone that they pursued, especially given what we know they went after Stallings pretty hard too.
That's true. That's a good point. Yeah. Murphy last year in his third year in MLB, only 216, 306, 405, but you like those ISO numbers. It still had a WRC plus of 99, which is better than Vasquez's was.
Well, and if you look though, like his framing
player.
Yeah, it was all defense. Like he was Fangraphs has him like a 19-1 on defense. So he's an over 3-win player. And if you look at his expected numbers, it was like his expected batting average was like 240, weighted on base was like 340 or something. Like, his numbers were seriously impacted by being
average on balls in play of 257.
Yeah. Oakland killed him because he's a fly ball hitter who hits the ball really hard and really far in the air. And he just had a lot of balls die at the warning track that would have been home runs in most parks.
Mm-hmm.
So I do think it's going to be interesting because, like, Oakland, we know is going to be moving guys, and they have so many players that fit what the Red Sox need that it just almost makes too much sense that it probably won't happen. But,
no, you never know.
We'll just have to see.
And that's really what it is too, is that I've said for the longest time that Heimblum was brought in to be creative. He was brought in to be the anti-Dombrowski, right? Dombrowski has the tip standard sort of like, it's not like he just goes out and signs free agents. He makes trades and he's a dealer, but like you could see them coming. We need a closer, so let's go get the best closer on the market. We need an ace, so let's go get Chris Sale. He was brought in to get creative, and the thing is this sprint towards the regular season going to hamstring how creative they can get? I think the only way that trades get made before the start of the season is if the groundwork had been laid last fall before the lockout. We know they were having trade talks with the Brewers because they made a trade. Who else did they discuss? Right? Do they know who that other team likes? Do they know, who they want from that system, who's potentially available? That kind of groundwork will be important for any trades to happen. So,
well, and I think it's also going to be interesting, the impact of the canceled Rule 5 draft on the ability for teams to make trades over the next, couple of weeks in spring training. Because I'm assuming that with the Rule 5 draft canceled, teams are going to open their camps up to scouts. And if scouts can get in and get fresh looks at players, that's going to be really important for potential trade negotiations over the next few days. So that's why I do wonder if we might see the trades not happen for a few days as teams go, open their camps up, get fresh looks at players, and then, or if just it ends up being that a bunch of teams have player to be named later in trades, which also we could see that route, kind of like what the Red Sox did with the Benintendi trade last year.
Yep. All right, should we move on to some emails real quick and wrap it up, Ian? Sure. Again, if you want to email the show, it's podcast@soxprospects.com. As always, we want to talk about what you all want to hear about. And we've only got a couple because we just released an episode a couple days ago on iTunes because there was, did I tell you the issue with iTunes? And I can just tell people, I apologize that iTunes went up a day late. Apparently they changed their requirements for artwork. You need an image that's 1400 by 1400 pixels, and ours was 1200 by 1200.
You know what they say, Chris? The devil is in the detail.
It is. The devil is in the details. Okay, our first question for this episode comes from Tim. And Tim says, "Hi guys, what player was the lowest rated prospect on your list that made the majors?" Now, that's a bit of a weird. Well,
no, I think.
Go ahead.
Well, sorry.
Well, just to get the problem with this is that
we don't rank everyone in the system.
Well, there's that. Yes, because the thing is, there are always going to be guys who come from off the rankings at some point who've made the majors because rankings are a point in time. Like Mookie Betts, when he got called up to the majors, was the number one prospect in the system. Mm-hmm. There was a point at which we had him in the 50s.
Well, yeah, because we didn't know anything.
Well, but no, he was in Lowell struggling and looked like he was, he didn't have the arm for short. He didn't hit at all. He was athletic, but and I mean, he almost retired a month into the next season in Greenville to go play college basketball. So I think he was, I'm fine with where we had him at the time because that's the player he was. You don't predict what happened with Mookie Betts. Mm-hmm. So there are players who were unranked. Daniel Nava comes to mind.
The one I was thinking of was Mike Miller.
Well, right, because he got called up for a cup of coffee. So right,
I know, but him making the big leagues is that was stunning. Nava.
Was he ever ranked?
No, I don't think so. That's the other thing. But Mike Miller was, for those who don't know, was he a senior sign?
He was ranked as high as 45.
Oh, was he actually? Interesting. Yeah. But Mike Miller was a senior sign out of Cal Poly, I want to say.
Something like that.
And he was just this scrappy, undersized utility, infield type, but he was an org guy, and he is an org guy. That's why he, but him making the big leagues, I remember when that happened, I was like, oh, that was surprising. That was one that I was genuinely surprised about. And
the other types of guys that make the majors after not being ranked that high are players like Trevor Kelly, who,
oh yeah, I forgot he made it.
Yeah. His highest ranking in our rankings was 58. And he was just a guy who,
but I think
he's a fringy reliever who made it up for a cup of coffee, and that's awesome. But that happens with relievers because relievers like that are only worth.
Well, and that's the thing is none of the guys I think we're thinking of turned into established big leaguers. They all were guys who got one or two appearances.
Yeah. So let's see. I mean, the other type of guy that you run into is a guy that got traded. So Jose Alvarez was never ranked higher than 42nd in our system, but he's carved out a nice little career for himself in the major leagues in the major leagues as a reliever. Mm-hmm. But again, would he have been ranked higher if he stuck around longer? Hunter
Yeah.
Cervenka.
I was just thinking of him. Yeah.
He never was ranked. He peaked at 40. And again, he was traded while he was in Greenville, I think.
He was traded like 3 times before he made it with the Braves.
Right. So that's kind of another part of it. I'm just trying to skim our ex players page, which is a great resource for this kind of thing. Is there anyone who made it who was ranked in like the 50s? This is just scintillating audio right now. So I'm going to go ahead and just bag it. But yeah, I mean, you can check out our ex prospects page. It's on the left side of the website. If you scroll down, there's a box and there's an ex players link. It's also soxprospects.com/ex prospects. And you can see everyone who we've ever made a player page for. And they're bolded if they've played in the majors, and their top ranking is next to them. Apparently Travis Denker is a guy who was in the system they got him after he played in the majors. That's right. He was a minor league free agent.
I think though, like if you're looking at that list and the players who has stuck around, who was probably never ranked that highly, that I think Chris Martin is a pretty good example.
That's a terrific example.
Like Chris Martin has turned into a legit setup guy. And he was what he peaked at, I think I was just looking at it, like in the 30s, 33. And of those guys, like I think he's probably the one who's had the best career of the players who never got inside the top 30 that I can see off just like a quick glance at these rankings. Hunter Strickland's another one in that boat. But Strickland's weird because Strickland was traded. What was he in his second season? So we didn't really get to see him like develop.
Did we never rank Daniel Nava?
No, because he was like 30 when he signed, probably.
Yeah, but he was hitting in AAA. That can't be right.
I don't know.
I'm checking that one because I don't believe that. I think we're just missing his ranking. Anyway, yeah, but thanks for the question. It's an interesting question. We appreciate it, Tim. Moving along, our next email comes from Liberated Syndication Tech Support. That's not what I want. Our next email comes from someone who's not loading because my computer doesn't like being on streaming and me doing this. The other problem is my phone's broken, so I can't really, undo. Okay, our next question comes from, oh no, that's something I got to talk with you about, Ian. Our next question comes from Austin. He says, hey, Chris and Ian, with the international free agent or international draft process being negotiated, I had a question of how the Red Sox Dominican Academy was operated. Is the facility exclusively for players under contract with the Red Sox? Do amateur players train at team facilities prior to signing their contracts? Thank you. And A+ offseason/lockout content from you guys so far. Austin, thanks for the kind words, Austin. Highly suggest going back and checking out the Eddie Romero episode we did last January. He talks a lot about this kind of thing. And Ian, correct me if I'm wrong. They definitely work guys out at the academy.
Yeah, they work out, but it's it's usually like a 1 or 2, they bring them in for a workout. They're not full-time workouts there. They're not full-time. I think the only people who work out full-time would be like, who aren't playing, would be if like after the guys sign. Yeah. When the guys sign, well, I guess it's not as big of an issue now because of the winter.
Right,
it's in the winter
in
now.
January.
Yeah. But in the past, in the old signing system, when it was July 2, those guys would play in like a kind of like an extended spring training version of the DSL called the Tricky League, which we've discussed, I think, before. And they would be like staying and working out at the facilities, but not technically playing in games with the DSL affiliates or teams.
Right. But yeah, it's kind of a mishmash of a lot of things, but thank you for the question, Austin. Again, podcast at soxprospects.com. Brian Cowan got your email. Going to talk with Ian about it. And we'll maybe have some, actually, you know what? Let's go ahead and read this because people might have this question. Brian emailed us and he talked about potentially making the trip to Greenville for a game. Which
highly recommend.
Ian has said, we've both said, but I remember Ian specifically really harping on it. If you're going down, basically one of the things he was interested in is, do you need to get like tickets ahead of time?
No.
And I don't think any of these places really sell out. So you can walk up, but I think I know where you're going.
Yeah. There's one night a week where you need to watch out, and it's on Thursdays. I think it's Thursdays. at Greenville.
In Greenville, yeah.
They do dollar
Okay.
beer night. That night sells really well. So you might need tickets ahead of time for that. But for the most part, no, you don't.
I would
you
say
don't need tickets ahead.
if you're ever going to a minor league game and need to know if you need to get tickets ahead of time, look at the promotion schedule.
Yes.
If there is a bobblehead night.
Oh yeah, that's the other one. Yeah.
If there are fireworks.
Oh, people love fireworks.
People love fireworks.
I don't get it.
As I like to call it, easy exit from the parking lot.
Except if you're in New Hampshire, where you have to leave before the game's over.
Oh God, yeah. Or
New Hampshire, for those who don't know, the parking lot, the media parking lot is behind the stadium, and they shoot the fireworks off from the auxiliary road that leads to the media parking lot. So if you don't leave, if you don't leave before like the end of the game, you're stuck because they close it off. No, because I leave. Well, that's a rookie mistake because it's so funny though.
I walked so you could fly. All right.
It's so funny though watching because you'll see it like most scouts stay to the end of the game. Like that's obviously it's their job. New Hampshire's the one exception, and you'll see it. It's, if it's the top of the ninth, bottom of the ninth, depending on, obviously what the score is, 1 out hits, they move up to the top of the stanchion and they're standing there. 2 outs hits, gone. Just, you're not risking it because if you get stuck, you're stuck for another like half an hour. So yeah.
Half an hour, and then you're fighting all the people walking to their cars.
Exactly.
Manchester, yeah.
But yeah, no, with Greenville, I would say, and you usually can just walk up and get tickets, but it doesn't hurt to buy them ahead of time. Like it's not, they're not very expensive.
No.
And it's fun. You can pick your seats and you'll get better seats. Like you can probably sit behind home plate for, $15-20, I would guess, a ticket, things like that. So you don't need to, except, if it's maybe there's certain games that might sell out because it's a popular promotion or just a popular promotion, or there's like a cool tour visiting in town that they're doing in between innings or whatever.
Right. But yeah. All right.
Oh, cool. Actually, the other exception would be is if there's a prominent major leaguer rehabbing, like Chris Sale rehabbing, like in Portland, for example, they sold those games out, immediately. Like games, if it's known that a superstar player is rehabbing, then you also run into issues with that.
Cool. All right. Well, thank you all for the emails again. Podcast@soxprospects.com. Hit us up. Ian, let's bang it. Thank you all for listening. We appreciate it. Just to do our outro stuff, we want to thank all of our supporters on patreon.com, especially our $5 level supporters. That's Kyle C., Tyler Woodrow, Jeff Trainer, David Nardone, Tim Harding, Bill Stanton, Deb Kendall, Evan Kirkwood, Hurricanes 1, Chris Fox, James O'Hara, Nathan Kenyon, Andrew Wallen, David B., Ben Burnett, Al Mendel, Kevin Katrides, Ben and R.I., Paul Denyer, Lendl Mark, Cassandra Bukdov, James Bay McMahon, Stephen Gregory, James Bailey, Andreas Goldstrand, Corey Perrick, Forrest Perkins, Mark Herman, Aaron Meta, Jeff Harwood, Jimmy Mountain, Brian Cowan, Dusty G, Pavel, Jordan Shabbat, Jeffrey Scruggs, Nicholas Staropoli, Bob Introne, Mike Kawano, Chris Bollier, Curtis Waltman, Michael Stewart, Keith Fox, Caleb Farron, John Kane, Andrew K., Tim Ware, Michael Murphy, and Kyle Sanborn. Thank you all for your support. You can catch us on Twitter. Follow the site @Sox Prospects. Follow Ian @Ian Cundall. That's IANCUNDALL. And follow me @SP Chris Hatfield. Make sure you're following the Instagram account @Sox Prospects as well. Shout out to Walter. RIP. Thanks you all for listening. We'll be back in your eardrums soon, talking about more baseball. Back.